Okay, yeah.
Tell us about the Coliseum and how you got started in this business.
The Coliseum Gym has been open, I believe, for 17 years. A lot of people don't know that because it's kind of off the grid. It's not a big chain gym. It's a little bit more of a mom and pop gym. When I came here approximately 16 months ago. Fit right in, loved it. Offers me a lot of freedom to run my business how I want to run it, maintaining a high level of quality, allowing all of my clients to come in and really enjoy the facility. I personally got started in the business in 2004 back in Chicago, where I created a market for about 2 years, 2.5 years. I moved out to the Baltimore area and got to start from scratch, not realizing that it was going to be a lot of fun to start completely over again. So.
What?
How has the recent economic downturn impacted your business, and how has this location been an asset to you with the economy?
I'm incredibly fortunate to say that I've been one of the lucky few who seems to have not suffered from the economic downturn. And I think the reason for that is twofold. Number one, health and fitness in our country is probably one of the only really growing, burgeoning fields where there's an epidemic right now, an obesity epidemic. People are investing more effort, more time, more thought into their health, wellness, and fitness than probably ever before. Secondly, I'm very fortunate that we live in an area that is probably a little better off economically, and due to that, people are more likely to invest in their health, fitness, simply because they have the means to realize, this is really important. I want to live a long, fruitful life, educate my children. So this area has been very good for myself and my business.
What does your day consist of here?
My day consists of usually coming in the morning and trying to sneak in my own workout, assuming I have a couple hours to do such. And then after that, usually working with clients. I usually train 2 clients an hour, 9-hour shift, usually 1 to 10 during the week, Monday through Thursday. During that hour, I'm taking my clients out on the floor, exercising them, so to speak, taking them through strength training routines, but at the same time educating them about nutrition, talking about how they're setting their goals, how they're pursuing their goals, making sure that we're making forward progress to actually get them in shape to where they want to be.
How has your success been?
In terms of the personal training industry, I think I actually have a really high success rate, with my clientele, which helps to explain why my business is successful. I haven't quantified it, but I have an amazing number of personal stories of people that have dropped 40, 50, 60, and up to almost 200 pounds under my guidance.
Any good story?
Any good story? My biggest loser to date is probably Stephanie McClellan. She was 350 pounds at her heaviest. We've had her as low as 159, and she's managed to maintain at about 165 for the last 2.5 years. She was actually my first guinea pig when I moved to Baltimore. I needed to find one person that would absolutely do what I said in order to show everybody how good I was. And she was that person, and 3 years later we're still working together.
What strengths do you have or plans do you have to continue to grow your business moving forward?
I think my greatest strength is just that I run on no sleep, and I'm very interactive, always trying to brainstorm and think of new ways to push the envelope, to become creative, finding new avenues. For instance, most personal trainers work with clients 1 an hour. About 3 years back, I started doing tandem training, which is 2 clients per hour. Due to how personal training works, it actually works very well. It's very effective. The results are great while making it cheaper for the client and allowing for higher productivity for the trainer. So it's something that I'm working on with other trainers to help craft their skill at it. Also started doing online coaching, where I will train somebody that's not actually in front of me. I'm just doing their diet programming, doing their exercise programming. I currently have clients in Israel, Afghanistan, California, Chicago. What that does is opens up my market, to work with anyone in the whole world. It makes it substantially more affordable for the client. We've only been doing that for about a year, and so far it's proving to be very, very effective. The results people are seeing, losing weight like crazy, building strength like crazy, and hoping to see that continue. So, greatest strength, just always trying to find new ways to make it affordable, make it available, and increase my own productivity.
a smaller business, how do you market and compete with other larger chains in the area?
The personal training industry is probably a little different in that it's still very word of mouth, referral based. So your reputation is everything. I made the mistake when I moved here from Chicago thinking my reputation would come with me and didn't realize I had to start all over again. So instead of trying to sell, I did what I did best. I produced results. As I mentioned with my client Stephanie McClellan, I found one person that would follow me to the end of the earth, do exactly what I said, stripped 70 pounds off of her in 6 months, showed every other trainer in the facility how it's done, to be humble. And from there, started to build a huge, small business, if you will. So it hasn't been that hard for me personally to compete with larger chains. If anything, I tend to be overrun and inundated with referrals and clients. And to that end, we're actually trying to grow my business by taking new trainers under my wing, helping to develop their abilities so they can do the same thing.
And where are you right now in that process?
My old training partner in Chicago, his name is Adam McVeigh. We're in the process of trying to have him move out here, actually work under me, teach him some of the skills and methods that I've learned in the last 3 years, make him a little more productive. He's an amazing trainer, has all the skills to be one of the best trainers in the Maryland area. Just needs to work on some of those organizational tactics and whatnot that are going to help, propel his business to the next level. If it proves successful with him, then we're going to start hopefully a mentorship program, start bringing in new and young talent, training them to be elite level trainers, and then sending them out on their own.
What do you think makes you different as a personal trainer as opposed to other trainers?
There's a couple different things. One of the major things is my background is actually in philosophy rather than exercise physiology. Most people that are trainers went to school for sports. I didn't play a day of sports. I was a fat kid my whole life, musician my whole life, and I didn't start working out and thinking about fitness until after college. So because of that, when I started doing it, I did it not because I was supposed to be there, I did it because I loved it. I was incredibly passionate about it. And to this day, 8 years later, pretty much every night after a 12 to 14-hour day, I go home. I get on bodybuilding websites and I read materials because I love it. I love the sport. I love the field. It's tiring at times, of course, but it is my passion. So that hugely sets me apart. With the philosophy background, it helps me a lot to deal with my clients. Getting somebody in shape is not as simple as taking them through a workout and writing them a diet. You have to look at their entire life. What are they going through? What does their day-to-day look like? How many children do they have? How's their relationship with their husband or wife? That's all going to have a huge influence on how they're living their life, okay? And if you aren't somewhat in touch with that and trying to look at the big picture, they're never going to get there. Simple as that.
As an entrepreneur, how do you feel the balance between the organizational side of your business and the practical side of your business? How do they meet?
In the beginning, when I started personal training, I was very fortunate in that I lived with my parents, so I could basically be a starving artist trainer. There's very few trainers that are both good and effective and good at business. It's hard to marry those two, it really is. So my first 2.5 years roughly of doing this, all I worried about was becoming an elite trainer, where I could take anyone, produce results. And I always kind of had the underlying philosophy that if I did that, the business would come. And sure enough, the business did come. Then the next step was learning how to market it, show that to people. So whether that's social media, Facebook, Twitter, whether that's building my website, which I was working at a company that actually did not want me to have a website, I still took the initiative just because I wanted to show to the world the results that I was getting from people. Always doing something to just say, hey, look, we're getting results, other people aren't getting results, we're where you want to be. Some of that could be as simple as when I prep for a bodybuilding show, I go through a pretty significant transformation myself, dropping anywhere between 40 and 70 pounds over the course of 4 to 5 months. So last year when I did that, we did a video documentary, tracked it every 2 weeks, posted a video up on YouTube, so we had a YouTube channel so people could actually see the process and see that I walk the walk. I go through it too, just like you go through it and everyone goes through it. So it makes it more real, it makes it more tangible, so people have greater buy-in.
What is different being in Maryland versus being in Chicago where you were before?
the area that I lived in Chicago was similar to here demographically in terms of, you know, median income, etc. So in that respect, it's not all that different. At least for me, on a personal level, I love this area more in that the bodybuilding scene is much stronger. There's much greater kinship. People are better connected, talk to each other. In Chicago, it was really spread out and dead, and there was no camaraderie. So moving out here, it's been a blessing in that I've actually had a mentor, people help each other, they network, stuff like that. That's really, really cool. On the personal training side of things, I think that strength in the fitness community has a spillover effect to your clients. So the average client out here, you know, simply if you look at their professions, I train a lot more lawyers, a few politicians, stuff like that. There's people in every line of business and every line of work that want to be fit, and they're going to make it happen. So it's changed my client base a little bit, working with different types of people. But at the end of the day, you know, you could be any profession, any age. I train people from the age of 15 up to the age of 76. And as long as you're serious, you're coming in, you know, we're gonna get you there.
Good.
Is there anything else you want to talk about as far as bodybuilding training, anything philosophically?
I mean, the only thing that I would
Why did you start bodybuilding?
Again, my whole life I was overweight. I was 10 pounds at birth. My brother was 9'11". We have several aunts on my mom's side that are 5'3", 275. So obesity runs in our family. And I just was never satisfied with it. You know, I grew up watching my Arnold Schwarzenegger movies and my Hulk Hogan wrestling and all that, playing with He-Man. We grew up in a very macho area, 32 era, not area. And I just always kind of said, you know, someday I'm gonna get my crap together, get in shape. And I never really let it hold me back, but I was always kind of peripherally aware of the fact that I wasn't where I wanted to be. So when I finished college, I finished with a very high degree in philosophy. I knew that my mind had been cultivated, developed, etc. And I looked down at this and wasn't satisfied. And I basically said, all right, well, if you can do this, you can do this. It can't be that much harder. You know, it's just hard work, simple as that. So before I joined the gym, before I never hired a trainer or anything like that, I spent a year just reading books on exercise physiology, nutrition, magazines, bodybuilding magazines, looking for trends that stood out, principles that stood out, and kind of formulated a game plan. And I bought a $100 weight set at Sport Mart, threw it in my basement, and went so far as to make certain promises to myself, like I said, 6 months, no exceptions, no excuses. At that point, if the payoff wasn't there, I could quit. And as soon as I started doing everything right, after I read, the results were really, really rapid. And I just found it really suited my personality. It was all about trying to push yourself a little bit harder each day, get a little bit better, get a little bit stronger. You have the book that says, here's what you lifted the day prior, so here's what you got to do today to get a little bit better. And in that sense, it's really not that far a stretch from an entrepreneur, from an academic. It's just a way of self-betterment. It's a different path to it. So if you look at ancient Greek philosophy, back then, it was about having a well-developed mind and a well-developed body and a well-developed friend network. You want to be well-rounded and make sure that your life was fulfilling in numerous paths. So I'm the philosophy bodybuilder, I guess.
Can you briefly just describe the process of someone coming in and deciding if they want to train and kind of what happens?
Sure. Nowadays, one thing that I've done to try to make my business a little more efficient is automatizing a little bit more of it and doing a little bit more of it over email, just because there's so much FaceTime involved when you start with a new client. So usually if I get a contact form from somebody that's interested in personal training, I'll talk to them over email once or twice, send them a questionnaire that covers their whole health background, exercise background, injuries, allergies, their day-to-day schedule. I try to gather as much info on that person as possible before I even meet with them. Because that way when I meet with them, instead of it being a 4-hour-long interview, it can be a 25-minute long interview, and you have a really good sense of the starting point. Then I'll usually set up a free consultation, have them come in, meet me here, talk a little bit more extensively about their goals, and then try to set up an idea of what type of training package would work best for them, whether it's once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, and explain why, the physiology and the science behind why you would do this versus this versus this. Then once that's decided, I go home, usually work on a nutrition plan for the individual, cardiovascular plan for the individual, and that's, again, usually handled all over email. And then they start coming in and training and getting their butt kicked and hopefully dropping lots of weight and seeing results really rapidly.
I think we're good.
Is there anything else you wanted to say?
No, I mean, I'm pretty good.
I think that's good.